For a long time, the name of the game in cybersecurity was building digital fortresses. The idea was to keep threats out. But what happens when those walls just don't work anymore? That's what we're digging into today.
Okay, so let's just kick things off with a pretty unsettling thought. What if the biggest threat to your security isn't some hacker trying to bash down the door? What if they're already inside?
Right, so to really get why things had to change, we've got to take a step back and look at how we used to do things. The old model, you can think of it as the digital castle and moat.
And for decades, the philosophy behind that castle was super straightforward. You build this big, strong digital wall, what we call a perimeter, around all your important stuff. You load it up with firewalls and gateways, you name it. The goal was simple: keep the bad guys out.
But this led to a massive, and I mean massive, assumption that turned out to be incredibly dangerous. We call it implicit trust. Basically, if you made it past the outer walls, you were golden. You were trusted. The system just assumed, hey, you're in, you must be one of us. And folks, that is where everything starts to go wrong.
So what happens when that trust is, totally misplaced? What happens when the bad guy's already inside the castle? Well, this is exactly where that whole model just completely crumbles.
And here's the kicker. Getting in isn't always some dramatic Hollywood-style hack. A lot of the time, it's way simpler. Think about it. A really convincing phishing email lands in someone's inbox. An employee clicks, maybe enters their password, and boom, their credentials are gone. The attacker now has a key, and they don't have to break down the door. They can just walk right in.
Okay, and this is where the real nightmare begins. Because once they're inside, remember, they're trusted. So they don't just stand there. They start moving around, system to system, server to server, looking for the good stuff. This is what we call lateral movement, and it's one of the most dangerous things that can happen inside a network.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is a well-known problem. Check out this quote. It really nails the core issue. Once attackers breach the perimeter, further lateral movement is unhindered. Think about that, unhindered. They basically have free rein to roam around, all because of that one flawed idea of implicit trust.
But wait, it gets even more complicated. The problem isn't just that the castle walls have holes in them. In today's world, the walls have basically disappeared altogether. Just think about how we all work now, right? The network isn't some tidy little box in one building anymore. It's everywhere. You've got headquarters, but you also have people working from their kitchen tables, and you've got critical apps running in the cloud. The whole idea of one single perimeter you can draw a line around, it's gone. Poof.
So what really did it in? Well, it was a triple threat, really. First, you've got remote users, people logging in from all over the world. Then you have bring your own device, or BYOD, where everyone's using their personal phones and laptops for work. And finally, the big one, the cloud. Our most important stuff isn't even in our building anymore. All of a sudden, the line between inside and outside got incredibly blurry.
So this brand new world needed a brand new way of thinking about security. We couldn't rely on walls anymore. We needed something built on constant verification, on questioning everything. And that new philosophy is called Zero Trust.
And the shift in thinking here is, well, it's night and day. The old way, traditional security, basically just asks one question. Are you inside the network? If the answer is yes, you're good to go. But Zero Trust, it asks a much smarter, much tougher set of questions every single time. It asks, okay, who are you? What are you using? And should you really be allowed to touch this specific thing at this exact moment? It trusts absolutely nothing by default. So how do the experts define it? Well, the official definition really captures it. Zero Trust is all about moving our defenses away from those old, static, network-based perimeters. Instead, the focus is now on protecting what actually matters: the users, the devices, and the data itself, no matter where they are.
So what does that look like in practice? Let's go back to our castle analogy. Instead of just one big guard at the main gate, imagine you now have a security guard at every single door inside the castle. Every time you want to go into a room, you have to show your ID and prove you're supposed to be there. That's Zero Trust. Every single access request has to go through a checkpoint, what's called a policy enforcement point, that checks everything before it lets you in.
And look, this isn't just some marketing buzzword that's going to fade away. This whole philosophy is laid out in detail in a really important document from the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST. The document is called NIST Special Publication 800-207, and honestly, it's pretty much the blueprint for how you build a secure organization in the modern era.
All right, so let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway here? It's pretty simple, really. In this new world without clear perimeters, sticking to the old castle and moat security model, well, that's become the biggest risk you can take. If there's one single thing you take away from this, let it be this. The old way was all about protecting the network. Zero Trust is about protecting the resources, the actual data, the apps, the things that matter. It's a shift from protecting big, clumsy network segments to protecting specific, valuable assets.
And that really leaves us with one final, crucial question. In a world where that network perimeter is basically gone, where it's more of an idea than a reality, can you really afford to just grant trust to anyone who happens to be inside? The whole idea behind Zero Trust is that the answer to that question has to be a resounding no.